Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Nancy Clarin, and I'll be your moderator and presenter today, one of your presenters. The title of this webinar is the Power Your Future webinar, and it marks the launch of the Power Your Future Scholarship for EVITP training. We know that there's a critical need to address the region's demand for electricians that are skilled in installing charging stations. So increasing the number of EVITP certified electricians it's a pretty big priority for us. And that's why I'm really here to have y'all here today. I'm happy to have y'all learn more about the scholarship and hopefully get excited to apply and get through the EVITP course. Yeah, and if you haven't already, go ahead, drop in the chat your name, company or association, and how you heard about the webinar or scholarship. Next slide, please. Okay, just two housekeeping things. We do realize that this might be an inconvenient time for some electricians out in the field right now. So this webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a copy of that recording and the slides in your email. That's going to be whatever email you use to register for the webinar. And we'll also actually upload the slides and the recording to the scholarship landing page. The second item is going to be Q&A. So we do have a lot to cover in 45 minutes. So we're not going to have time to pause between presentations for questions. But if you do have a question, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and our team members are going to do their best to get to it. The best thing to do is to use the Q&A feature and not the chat. And that's because we won't be monitoring the chat as much, and Q&A actually gets saved after the webinar. So if we're not able to answer your question today, we will be able to get to it afterwards. Next slide, please. Okay, and just so you know what's gonna be coming up for the next 40 or so minutes, our first presentation is gonna be a forecast of EVs in California. You're gonna hear from Sydney Rouse, who's co-director of Central Coast Clean Cities Coalition, or C5. Sydney works to further C5's goal of expanding the use of alternative fuels in the Central Coast region by engaging with stakeholders and members of the public to promote the benefits of alternative fuel vehicles. And she also provides technical assistance to those interested in making the switch from conventional fuels. And then your second presentation, you're going to learn about the electric vehicle infrastructure training program from EVITP co-chair Bernie Kotlier. Bernie is the national co-chair of the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, that's EVITP. And EVITP is a volunteer-based nonprofit EV industry organization that provides electrician training and certification in all 50 states and Canada. Bernie is also a member of the board of directors of the California Energy Alliance, the New Energy Nexus, and the National Advanced Battery Association. And last, you're going to hear from me. Again, my name is Nancy Clarin, and I'm representing Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, or VCREA, as we like to call it. And I work on the implementation of Ventura County's EV Blueprint. The EV Blueprint aims to accelerate and support electric vehicle charging and infrastructure deployment throughout Ventura County. My presentation is going to dive into the Power Your Future Scholarship, and that's going to include things like eligibility and the application process. So I hope y'all get a chance to stick around to the end. All right, and with that, I am delighted to introduce our first presenter, Sydney Rouse.
Hi, everyone. Let's start off this presentation by taking a closer look at California's electric vehicle market. As you can see on this graphic, California is a leader in the transition to electric vehicles, with 40% of the total zero-emission vehicles, aka ZEVs, which includes fully electric vehicles, purchased in the US have been sold in California alone. In 2022, 345,000 zero-emission vehicles were sold in California, which means almost a quarter of the total number of ZEVs ever sold in our state were sold in the last year. These stats showed that despite supply chain shortages and COVID-19's impact on the auto market, interest in EV development has and will continue to grow in the coming years, especially with decreased battery costs and pressure from California's aggressive zero-emission vehicle goals. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, California's zero-emission vehicle goals are hefty. In 2020, California's governor issued a world-leading executive order outlining California's plans to accelerate the transition from gas and diesel powered vehicles to zero emission vehicles, which includes striving for 100% of new passenger vehicle sales to be ZEVs by 2035, 100% of off-road vehicles and equipment to be zero emission by 2035 where feasible, and 100% of medium and heavy duty vehicles to be zero emission by 2045. In order to meet our state's zero emission vehicle goals, collaboration between federal, state, and local governments, vehicle and charging infrastructure manufacturers, and installation teams is essential. Next slide, please. This executive order placed immense pressure on vehicle manufacturers worldwide to invest in EV and battery technology to electrify their fleets and not get left behind in this transition. In fact, it is estimated that manufacturers will spend over $515 billion through 2030 developing new electric models. The graphic featured on this slide illustrates forecasted global sales for vehicle manufacturers for target years 2025, 2030, 2035, and 2040. Based on their EV adoption commitments, it is forecasted that 100% of Volkswagen, Volvo, Mercedes-Benz, and General Motors global sales will be fully electric by 2040. Next slide. Now, you may be thinking, how will California achieve and support these aggressive electrification goals, even with impressive commitments from manufacturers? In 2022, the governor proposed a budget of $6.1 billion over 5 years for a package of proposals related to expanding zero-emission vehicles across California. A major focus of these proposals is developing EV charging infrastructure due to the fact that over 1.2 million public and shared chargers are estimated to be needed by 2030 to meet the demands of the EVs anticipated on the road. With only 80,000 public and shared chargers currently available, over 1 million EV chargers will need to be installed across our state by 2030. To ensure the safety of both electricians and users of charging stations, California Public Utilities Code Section 740, subsection 20 requires all EV charging infrastructure projects funded or authorized by the California Public Utilities Commission, the Energy Commission, and the State Air Resources Board to have at least one EVITP certified electrician on the installation crew at any given time, and projects with chargers supplying 25 kilowatts or more to have at least 25% of electricians on the installation crew be EVITP certified. As California's EV market continues to grow, the demand for EVITP certified electricians will skyrocket. Now I will pass it off to Bernie, where he will be diving deeper into EVITP and its importance to electrifying the transportation sector.
Thank you, Sydney, and thank you, Nancy, and everyone at the county and the other counties who are working on this. We really appreciate the time to present EVITP. We've got a lot of information to go over, so we're going to run through it quickly. If you do have questions, we'll try to answer them later on in the hour. So EVITP is the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program. We are currently in the 4th generation of the curriculum. That's 4.0. Next slide, please. EVITP is a nonprofit, volunteer, brand neutral, national EV industry collaborative that trains and certifies electricians for the safe and effective installation of EVSE or charging stations. EVITP is not a profit-making business or a typical company. It is an organization that's dedicated to making sure the industry is successful by reducing the possibility of fires and other electrical hazards by this great training that we offer and the certification that the public and state agencies and local governments can identify as EVITP certified electricians. We do not, and I repeat this, we do not train and certify contractors. There's no such thing as an EVITP certified contractor. Doesn't exist. The contractors who are listed on the website, which we'll talk about a little bit later, are approved, but the only way to determine that a project meets EVITP requirements is that the electricians on the job, the employees, are EVITP trained and certified. The collaborative that has put this together represents all these different categories you see here: manufacturers and electrical workers and contractors, first responders, manufacturers. And on the next slide, please, you will see a graphic illustration of many of the types of companies and organizations that came together originally, these original partner advisors, and that partner advisor group is continuing. Many of these companies and organizations and new ones have come in, and what they do is help EVITP with technical information and advice, in-kind contributions. They do not have to contribute money. In fact, they don't contribute money, and there's no dues or membership. They just help us with technical support. And next slide, please. The EVITP curriculum is very broad and comprehensive, covering everything from basic residential charging all the way up to medium and heavy duty and DC fast charging. It also covers things, very important things like site assessment and load calculations, and the National Electrical Code. We'll talk more about that, and going forward to the next slide, you'll see some more detail about the curriculum. Next, please. So this is a quick syllabus, and you will be able to maybe dig into this more if you have more detailed interest in it. But the first, just quickly, the first module of the curriculum and the training is on the vehicles. The second module, as you see here, is on the EV supply equipment, or EVSE, the charging stations. Next slide, please. The third module is on the code, the National Electrical Code, which is critical to electrical safety. And we focus on the chapters and articles that are specifically related to EV installation and maintenance. The fourth module is on load calculations, which is also based on the National Electrical Code, and that's very comprehensive and important to safety, as we'll explain in a few minutes. The fifth, on the next slide, the fifth module is site assessment, which teaches electricians how to properly assess a site, and that's not only just for the specs of the equipment, but also the condition of the equipment, to make sure that that equipment is capable of handling the types of loads of these bigger and bigger batteries in these vehicles. Some of you may have heard that the new Ford F-150 Lightning carries enough power in its batteries to provide energy to a home for an average home for 3 days. That's a big battery. It puts a lot of load and stress on the host electrical system, whether it's a home or a business. So site assessment and load calcs are very important for safety. The next module, number 6, is commissioning. And then on the next slide, you'll see that number 7 is troubleshooting, and that includes repair and maintenance. And EVITP training is followed by a comprehensive proctored exam that includes exam questions on all this material, and the electrician has to pass that exam, showing that they've mastered the material to become EVITP certified. As I mentioned, this is our 4th generation of the EVITP curriculum. We update it every few years. The 5th generation, EVITP 5.0, is being developed right now and will be introduced this spring. Next slide, please. These are just some graphic images here of the types of vehicles and charging environments that EVITP covers. You'll see up in the right-hand corner a dump truck being charged wirelessly by those overhead red charging and induction charging equipment. On the next slide, you'll see a bus that's also being charged inductively, that's wirelessly. That's included in the training as well. Next slide. Other areas included in the training, and one of the most important ones, is DC fast charging. As I think many of you know, that's a big emphasis, state and federal programs, to have regularly spaced DC fast charging installations along our highways and transportation corridors. Next slide shows that we are also covering the basics, home level 2 charging, multifamily charging, small business charging, so very comprehensive training. Next slide, please. So who's eligible to take EVITP? Most importantly in California, the requirement is that the candidate be a state certified general electrician. And I think those of you, most of you, or hopefully all of you who are attending today who are electricians know what that means. If your current and valid state certification is ready to go, you can apply for EVITP training, and you can also, I believe you're eligible. That's up to the group here, but I believe you're eligible for the scholarship, to apply for the scholarship as well. Next slide. So I'm often asked about, well, what does EVITP do to increase diversity? Well, because EVITP draws from the pool of all state certified general electricians in California, EVITP doesn't select and doesn't get involved with the addition of a more diverse population for electricians, because it's open to all electricians. So we take all comers who qualify, who have that state certification. But it's an important question, and I want to point out to everyone that that pool that we draw from has become more and more diverse. The electrical trade today is very different than what it was 20 or 30 years ago, even different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. It's very diverse, and the outreach to make it more diverse starts with pre-apprenticeship programs. Those programs, once again, are drawing from a very diverse community. They help prospective electrician candidates who are going to hopefully get into an apprenticeship program. They help them with their math and communications, reading and writing skills to help them get into the trade. Next slide, please. So apprenticeship is a big feeder program to the electrical trade. Recently, EVITP received a scholarship fund for training, and it required that the candidates' classes be at least 50% women and BIPOC, and that was successful in 24 cities in the US. So the trade has become very diverse in California, but also in the rest of the country. Next slide. Another part of the increasing the diversity and equity for EVITP, pulling from that pool of qualified electricians, is that there are some really great programs that are helping formerly incarcerated individuals get into the trade. This one is particularly outstanding. It's called Second Call. It's based in the Los Angeles area, and Second Call has helped over 2,000 electricians get into the trades successfully, and more than 1,000 of them have become electricians. So great program, and once again, the trade is becoming very diverse and very equitable. Next slide. So some basic information about EVITP. It's a 20-hour course. It's online, the training is online, and the exam is online, and it's available through evitp.org. The fee is $275, which includes everything: the instruction, the quizzes, the exam, proctoring, the certification, all inclusive, one fee, and we have not raised it. The main office of EVITP is in Michigan, and it's taught in Canada too. Next, please. So why should an electrician take EVITP, or why should a contractor encourage its electricians to take it, or why should the state or local governments want to see more EVITP electricians? The main reason is safety. And when you do things right and you do them safely, you get better performance and reliability, and you also reduce risk for everyone. First and foremost for people in and around the chargers, but also for property. and it also reduces risks for governments and insurers and financial institutions who are supporting these projects. Next, please. Safety is the critical part of EVITP, and it is not an accident. I'm often accused of being overly dramatic with this photo. I wish I were being, but it's unfortunately a little too realistic, and I'm going to show you why. Next slide. These two slides, this one shows what happens when you overload a circuit. This is a laboratory simulation of overloading a circuit, the way a larger battery would in a facility. And when you do that, this is what can happen. In the next slide, you'll see that fires can begin. It doesn't always happen, but the fact it can happen means we have to be safe, keep everyone safe. The next slide shows some photos that that was given to EVITP by our utility partners. These are examples of what happens when you overload circuits, and it once again can be very dangerous. The next slide brings it much closer to home on the EV front. This is an actual photo of a fire that happened back in 2011 in Connecticut, and that vehicle you see in the front is a Chevy Volt. The reason we're going back to 2011 is because that's when the auto industry and other parts of the EV industry came together to form EVITP, because they were so concerned about these fires. And while they're concerned about fires in vehicles, this is about fires that don't start in the vehicles. They start in the facility, in the electrical wiring of the facility, not in the cars. Of course, the cars get involved. And the fire marshal's report in many of these fires have told us that it's overloading the circuits in the building that is causing those fires in many cases. This is one example. And the next slide, you'll see another one in North Carolina. The next slide is a sort of a close-up of what happens there. And once again, the reason we're going back to 2011 is because that's when EVITP started. Unfortunately, we've seen more and more of these fires through the years, and EVITP is doing everything we can to train electricians to make sure that those circuits are not overloaded and this doesn't happen. Next slide, you'll see that one of the key parts of the training is that load calculation. And these types of calculations are not for beginners. You have to be a state certified general electrician, because you have to have the basics even to understand what it's all about. There's about a half a dozen pages of these kinds of advanced math formulas that are required to do a proper calculation of what the system is capable of and what the loads are and what the system has to be capable of to add those additional loads for those EVs with the bigger and bigger batteries. Next slide, please. So we've talked quite a bit about the smaller facilities and what can happen in their existing electrical systems. What about the big facilities? What about the ones that are outdoors? Well, those have their challenges too when it comes to safety. And here the challenge is a little different. They're extremely high-powered and hazardous systems to work on. And if an electrician is not properly trained, there can be very unfortunate and tragic consequences. This is just one example of a 32-year-old electrician who was not properly trained and died on the job because he did not know how to protect himself properly. Next slide, please. So all of this concern for safety and doing the job right has caused a lot of entities, authorities having jurisdictions, counties, towns, ports, all over the country to pass EVITP requirements. I'm not going to run through this list. You can see a lot of them here. But what I do want to focus on is the last 2 points. Of course, this was mentioned earlier. We do have a state law in California that went into effect January 1st of 2022, over a year ago. And it says that if a project is funded by, in part or in whole, or it is approved by the Air Resources Board, the California Energy Commission, or the CPUC, EVITP electricians have to be on the job. In addition, there's a federal guidance document that went out to all 50 states from the United States Department of Energy and Department of Transportation, requiring training in the application for federal funding. And it does say that EVITP is the training they should be taking, the electricians should be taking. So there's a national scope to this as well. Next. So why not other training? Why not take the training just from the manufacturer or just from the networking company? Well, EVITP encourages electricians who are going to work on a certain brand of equipment to take that company's training. But to be clear, those trainings from manufacturers or networking companies are very narrowly focused. They're focused just on their equipment. They're focused on the proprietary aspects, and they do not teach the broad and comprehensive requirements and safety protocols and things like the National Electrical Code and site assessment or load calculations and ADA requirements. So EVITP is the only training that does that, and we encourage electricians to take both. EVITP, and then if they're going to work on a certain brand of equipment, the training from that company. Next, please. Our website is evitp.org. If you haven't been there, I'm going to show you a few quick things about the site. Next slide. One of the important ones is, how does a city or a county or a private company know if the electricians on the job are meeting the EVITP requirement? And it's really easy. EVITP had a certification check function on the website. Just go there, click on certification check, and either put in the name of the individual or their EVITP number, either one, and it will tell you right away if they're currently confirmed. So that's a, excuse me, 1 second here.
Looks like Bernie might be having some technical difficulties. Parker, why don't we skip to the scholarship slides? And hopefully Bernie can come back on. Okay, so we got a preview of what EVITP is going to look like. We know about the safety importance of EVITP and benefits. So I wanted to offer just another additional incentive, which is the Power Your Future Scholarship. And the scholarship, it's a, oh, let me turn my camera on real quick.
Hey, Nancy, I'm back, and I can wait till you finish here. I can go over the last few slides whenever you want to. I'm sorry, there was a problem with the connection.
Oh, no worries. You know what? I had just started, so we can go back to your slides.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so this scholarship is a collaboration between VCREA, C5, and EVITP. And it came from an acknowledgement of the crucial need for more electricians with EV charging installation experience. And we hope that the scholarship increases awareness about EVITP and also removes any financial barrier that might be preventing electricians from signing up. And the way that the scholarship works is that you can think of it as sort of a rebate or reimbursement. So that means that electricians are going to pay for the registration of the course upfront. And then once they've gone through the course, they've passed the online exam, and we've verified their certificate, they're going to receive a $275 check in the mail. And that $275, like Bernie mentioned, is going to cover the cost of training, the exam, quizzes, all of that. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's talk eligibility. We actually only have 3 eligibility requirements for the scholarship. And the first one is similar to EVITP's requirement, and that's that you are a California state certified electrician. And you'll actually have to use your, you'll have to have your certification number on hand when you're filling out your scholarship application. The second requirement is that you must work primarily in the Tri-County region. Tri-County region includes San Luis Obispo County, Santa Barbara County, and Ventura County. And the third requirement is one that you might have to do a little bit of research for, but not too much. So you must have work experience in an AB 1550 low income or disadvantaged community within the Tri-County region. And a low income or disadvantaged community is also, they're also called priority populations, and they're designated by state agencies. If you see the map on the right there, it's zoomed into low-income and disadvantaged communities in Oxnard. You can actually use the same map to browse communities in your own county, whether you're in SLO, Santa Barbara, or Ventura. You'll have access to this map when you're filling out your application. And I just want to clarify that you don't have to live in a priority population community. You just have to have work experience there. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll just dive a bit deeper into the application process. It's only 2 slides, I think, so bear with me. So step 1, you're gonna actually submit 2 applications before starting the course. The first application is gonna be for the Power Your Future Scholarship, and that's gonna be through a Google form. You're gonna get a link to the Google form after this webinar, and it's also gonna be on the scholarship website. So the scholarship application should take about 10 minutes, and it's gonna ask you basic contact information questions, a bit about your employment in the Central Coast region. And after you click submit VCREA, that's us, we're gonna review your application, and within 10 days, we'll let you know if the application has been accepted, if it hasn't been accepted, or if we just need a little bit more information from you. Step 2 is gonna be that second application. Your second application is going to be to EVITP through the EVITP website. This is really just a formality. Since you've been approved for the scholarship, it means that we already certified that you are a state certified electrician, which means that you'll almost certainly be approved for EVITP. And so you'll get an email from EVITP within 3 to 5 business days. That's going to be a confirmation email that has instructions on how to purchase and register for the course. You're going to want to not let this email sit in your inbox for more than 10 days. Step 3 is you're going to follow instructions from the EVITP email to pay and register for the course. Next slide, please. Okay, so step 4 is the fun part. This is when you're going to go through the online course and you're going to learn a lot about EVSE safety. So you're going to take the online course and exam. The online course, like Bernie said, is 20 hours of material, but you have 90 days to complete it, which should be more than enough time. The sooner that you complete the course and the exam, the sooner you'll get the check. So that's an incentive to not wait the whole 90 days. And that takes me to step 5, which is sending your EVITP certificate to VCREA. You'll attach the certificate to an email, send it to me, Nancy.Clarin, excuse me, at Ventura.org with the subject line EVITP certificate. And I'll let you know that I'll give you a confirmation that we've received your certificate. The last thing you're gonna have to do is fill out a W-2, and that's just so that we can pay you, send you that check. And so we'll send you that check within 15 to 20 business days after we have your W-2. And that's it. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So before I'm done with my presentation, I just wanted to reiterate the timeline. This is because funds are limited, we can only give out a certain number of scholarships at a time. So if you don't meet certain registration and course completion timelines, you may be considered an inactive awardee, which basically means that your scholarship may be revoked to make room for another participant. So I'll just review this timeline real quick. So again, once you've been notified of your scholarship acceptance, you're going to have 10 days to apply for training on the EVITP website. Once you've received the EVITP confirmation email, you have 10 days to register and pay for the course. And then once you've started the course, you have 90 days to complete it, and that includes the exam. And those are my slides on the scholarship. So I'll go ahead and hand it back to Bernie to finish the rest of his slides, and then we'll go into Q&A.
Thank you, Nancy. Sorry about that technical glitch. We just had a power outage.
Oh, no worries.
Fortunately, it was limited. Anyway, so yes, the certification check is on the website, and it's available to check anyone's EVITP certification, and that's of course electricians. And it's even available on mobile devices, so you can do it in the field. Next, please. EVITP contractors are in all 50 states, and really want to point out here that contractors are not electricians. I know there's a lot of confusion there, but contractors are the employers, and we do not train and certify them, but we do list them on the site because that they are the ones who have the license to do business. But EVITP trains and certifies electricians only. So this is just a courtesy so people can get in touch with the contractor. Next step, next slide, please, shows you what, if you click on California on the map, you see that there are now 201 electrical contractors who are employers of more than 2,700 California EVITP electricians who are on the job in the state. Next slide, please. And it is national. This gives you an idea. If you're looking at some other states, like Ohio is another state, they're all over the country. You see, it's a national program. Next, please. EVITP is very proud of the fact that we started early. We started training back in 2011, and a representative from the United States Department of Energy, Clean Cities, came out and to visit our first major training back in Chicago in 2011, and EVITP was then selected as the only training program that's featured in two US DOE Clean Cities guides. The first one is for electrical contractors, and on the next slide you'll see that emphasis there on EVITP in the guide, and the next slide shows another guide that was published for public charging stations hosts. These go back a few years. Next slide shows once again EVITP is the only training and certification program that's featured in the DOE Clean Cities guides. I think that wraps it up. The next slide should be, yes, the end. We may have time for questions. I'll leave that up to Nancy and the crew to take care of that. And thank you for your attention to the EVITP presentation. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bernie. Last thing I want to say, I just want to give a big thanks to Central Coast Clean Cities Coalition and EVITP. Thank you, Bernie, for your support in developing the webinar and the scholarship. Definitely couldn't have been possible without your support and your guidance. And we do have time for questions, actually. I'll start off by reading some that are in the Q&A. So we have a question about clarification on which school EVITP training is associated with. Says the DIR is very specific about CEU needing to come from an approved school and will reject any training from a school not on that list.
Yeah, so EVITP is no longer associated with specific schools. EVITP is an online program, and it's available to everyone online. It's not tied to specific schools. The DIR has recognized EVITP for continuing education, and any electrician should be able to submit their EVITP hours, which are listed as 20, to the DIR, and they should get that credit for continuing education, but not tied to a school, tied specifically to EVITP because it is online. And if anybody has a problem with that, with the state, or there's any issue, I'd be glad to help.
Thanks, Bernie. Another question is, can I find the application for the scholarship form online? Yes, you can. Parker, do you think you could skip to the last slide? That's going to have the website. There it is. So vcenergy.org/poweryourfuture-scholarship. And if you registered for this webinar, which you did because you're here, then you'll receive all this information in your email. Okay, we can also, if you want to say a question out loud, just raise your hand. Use the raise hand feature, and I'll go ahead and unmute you. Okay, I see. I thought I saw a raised hand, but it went away. Okay, John, I'm gonna unmute you. You can now unmute yourself actually.
Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm curious if you can speak, if anyone can speak to how this curriculum and certification is different, related to, or builds upon the training that union electricians receive as a part of their apprenticeships and education. And the second unrelated question is, can you speak to the market demand for this? My sense is that there are very few EVITP certified electricians in California relative to the population of electricians. I'm curious why, and I'm wondering how we can, or if you have any suggestions of how folks can help, like this scholarship, help increase the pool of EVITP electricians.
All right, I'd be glad to take those questions. The first one is EVITP is a completely open program, as you can see, if you go to the web page for training, it doesn't ask and it does not discriminate in any way between electricians who might be members of a union or not. It's open to everyone. All they have to have is the California State Certified General Electrician current valid number. So we couldn't even tell you who's union or non-union. The training is the same for everyone. So that's the first question. The second question is about the number of EVITP electricians. So when the state legislature and the governor's office determined whether they were going to pass AB 841, which requires EVITP, there were 1,600 electricians who were EVITP certified in the state at that time. That was in 2020. A survey of the electrical contracting industry showed that there are only about 900 electricians with EVITP certification needed to install 1.2 million charging stations by 2030. So at the time the EVI 841 was passed, there were already roughly almost double the number that were needed. Since then, EVITP has continued to train. There are currently over 2,700 EVITP certified electricians, which is more than 3 times the number that's needed to install those 1.2 million charging ports between now and 2030. Keep in mind that the state requirement is 1 on basic jobs and 25% of the electricians on a large job. So if you have a crew that's made up of 4 electricians and maybe 4 apprentices, 8 people working on that crew, only one of those 8, 25% of the 4 electricians, needs to be EVITP certified. So there's a multiplier effect. All that said, EVITP is continuing to train and support the enlargement of that group as we are doing today.
Thank you, Bernie. If there's any more questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand again. I think we can take questions for about 1 or 2 more minutes. Bernie, there's a question in the chat. It says, does a regular C10 qualify for the training?
Right. So this is another point of confusion. Some people, I've heard some people refer to electricians as C10s. There's no such thing as a C10 electrician. However, there is a C10, a C10 state licensed contractor. That comes from the State Licensing Contracting Board. That is a designation for a business person who holds the C10 license, who's an employer. And I think the question is specifically, can that person who holds the license as a contractor be trained and certified? And the answer to that question is yes, if they are the ones doing the work in the field. So if it's a small shop where the contractor is also an electrician and out there doing the work, yes, they can be trained and certified. If it's a larger company where they're the administrator and they're not doing the work in the field, the answer is no.
Thank you. And Bernie, I understand you have a commitment after this, so maybe we can take one more question. I see, Oswaldo, you have your hand raised, so you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Nancy. I was just curious if there's a similar scholarship program that's offered in Monterey, Santa Cruz, and San Benito counties.
I'm not familiar with it at this time.
If I could jump in, I could tell you that it is likely that EVITP would be contacted to make a presentation and to advise any counties who might or cities who might be offering scholarship programs, as we were by Ventura and the other three in the tri-counties, and as we were with Bloomberg and others that have offered scholarships. To date, I'm not aware of being contacted by any other counties or cities in the state that are offering scholarships.
Yeah, and again, this scholarship is going to be open to the 3 counties, Santa Barbara, SLO, and Ventura counties. Okay. All right, well, we'll wrap it up then. If you didn't get a chance to have your question answered, you can email me at nancy.clarin@ventura.org. And if it's a question that I can answer, then I'll answer it. If it's a Bernie question, then I'll send that over to Bernie. You will be receiving a copy of this webinar and the slides in your email after the webinar. So hopefully that'll be helpful too. But yeah, so thank you. Well, thank you everybody for participating, for all your great questions. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, everybody on the C5 team. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.